Now we're going to learn about solving equations using addition and subtraction. So an equation is when we have an expression set equal to an expression. And while x plus 2 doesn't really look like 7, what it means is there's a number plus 2 that equals 7. And while you may be able to think, what plus 2 would equal 7? These problems will get a little bit more complicated as we go on, and so it's important to be able to do it mathematically. So let's dig in. So in order to solve for x, what we need to do is get x on one side of the equal sign and everything else on the other. So if over here we've added 2, if we give somebody 2 things and we want to make sure that we don't have those things anymore, we need to subtract 2 things. Now you can almost think of each expression here like a person. If we have a person on this side of the equation and a person on this side of the equation, if we've taken 2 things away from a person on this side of the equation, in order to keep these 2 people equal, we need to do that on the other as well. So we need to subtract 2 from the other side of the equation. Remember, it's very, very important that whatever you do to one side of the equation, you always do to the other. So what this says is x plus 2 minus 2. So if we have plus 2 and we take 2 away, it's going to cancel out and leave us only with x. An equal sign brings down, and then we have 7 minus 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. And look at that. Now we know that x is equal to 5. And if we think about it, our original equation was x plus 2 is equal to 7. Well, does 5 plus 2 equal 7? It does. And so we know that we got it right. Let's try another one. Now when we look at this equation, we have x plus 4 is equal to 12. So if we have plus 4 here and we want to get rid of it, we're going to subtract 4. And then what we do to one side of the equation, we have to remember we always do to the other. It's very important. So if we have plus 4 and minus 4, those are going to cancel, which leaves us with just the x on this side, an equal sign because we bring that down, and then we have 12 minus 4, which is 8. And that says that x is equal to 8. And remember, we can always plug it into the original equation. Let's think. Does 8 plus 4 equal 12? It does, so we got it right. Very good. Now this equation's a little bit different. We have x minus 1 is equal to 5. So if we are taking away 1 and we want to make sure that we are able to even things out, we need to do the opposite. So if we're taking away 1, we need to add 1. And remember, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. And so if we look, we have minus 1, negative 1, plus 1, and that cancels out, which leaves us with the x, an equal sign, and we have 5 plus 1, which is 6. So let's think. If we plug it in, we have 6 minus 1 is equal to 5. Is that right? It is. Very good. So remember, if it's a minus number, we need to add, and if it's a plus a number, we need to subtract. So whatever the opposite is. Now this equation looks very different. We have the x on the right side instead of the left side. So does that change anything? Well, if it's an equal sign, then whatever is on one side equals whatever's on the other. So we can do this one of 2 ways. We can solve this like we have been solving everything else. Or if it gets kind of confusing, you can always switch it so that it says this. All we've done is put this over here and this over here. They're still equal. So they end up equaling the same thing. But what would it look like if we were to solve this? Let's check it out. So if we have 10. Well, we can't do anything with that. What we're wanting to do is get x on one side and all the numbers on the other side. So, well, we're not going to do anything with the 10 just yet. But we do have on this side x plus 3. So if we're adding 3, remember we're going to subtract 3 in order to get it to cancel out. Okay, now what we do on one side of the equation we have to do on the other. Well, we have a minus 3 over here, so we need to do a minus 3 over here. It's just set up a little bit differently. And let's see, if we look, we have 10 minus 3, which is 7. We have our equal sign. And then we have our x. And then we have a plus 3 and a minus 3, and those cancel. So we're left with 7 is equal to x, which is the same thing as saying x is equal to 7. So let's see if this is right. 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. That's right. Very good. And it would have been the same thing if we had switched things. Really, it's just a preference. It's probably best to learn how to do it this way, so you don't have to rewrite everything. But if this doesn't make sense to you in the beginning, you can always switch it. So let's solve this one. If we have, remember we want to get x on one side and everything else on the other. So if we have a plus 8, we're going to subtract 8. And make sure we do that on both sides. We bring our x down. These numbers cancel out. And what we're left with is an equal sign and a negative 4. Now this is just fine. Remember, variables can be any number. Positive, negative, 0, rational, irrational. They can be any number. And so imaginary, which we've learned about, can be any number. So this situation works. But let's make sure. What's negative 4? So we plug this in. So we would have negative 4 plus 8. And that does equal 4. Very good.